The All Blacks 15 have 3 matches for their November internationals, the Barbarians, England A, and also Uruguay as their third and final game of 2025. And Jamie Joseph, he has put together a squad that in this video, I'm going to be making my own All Blacks 15 starting lineup and reserves for their upcoming matches. Now, of course, depending on who they are playing, will depend on who they go with in the actual lineup, and this is not a prediction of what I think Jamie Joseph will do. This is my own personal opinion, but I will have the squad up to the side so that you guys can also let me know who you would go with for this New Zealand 15 side. But jumping straight into the front row, there are many great options in this department, but for myself, I would go Xavier Numia as the number 1, Brodie McAllister number 2, and number 3, Siali Lauakai. Now, the reason behind that is I do feel like in the props, it's important to have that little bit of cohesion. And the fact that Xavier Numia as well as Lauakai do play for the same NPC side as well as for the same Super Rugby team, I think it makes sense to put those two together. Now, another option you could go with is Josh Fusitua as the number 1, George Dyer slotting in as that number 3 perhaps, but for me, I'd go with the 2 Wellington Lions and then Brodie McAllister. He's already had a little bit of All Blacks experience this year, now not a massive amount, and he has actually been taken out of the side for George Bell, but I do still think he's got plenty of talent. He's shown it throughout the NPC when given those opportunities, and hopefully would be able to show it as well for this All Blacks 15 side. Moving on to the locking duo. This is where you have slightly less options. Really, it is just the 3, Naito Akoi, Josh Berry, and Isaiah Walker Leawiri. My starting combo, I think, would be Naito Akoi as the number 4 with Josh Berry slotting in at 5. Nothing against Isaiah Walker Leawiri, but I feel like with his size and frame, having that man coming off the bench could be a massive bonus in the later stages of the contest. Naito Akoi, I did think he had a decent chance of making it into the All Blacks throughout this year, and if there are any injuries, I do think he's the next choice to make his way into the squad. Partnered with Josh Berry, who had a very strong Super Rugby Pacific. He was actually a pretty underrated part of that Blues 4-pack, so it would be great to see him get some opportunity here for the New Zealand 15 side. Moving on to the loose forward trio. This is where, unlike the locks, you've got a massive amount of options. The loose forwards that were selected: Caleb Boshier, Devin Flanders, TK Howden, Christian Leo Willie, Dalton Papali'i, and then also Sean Withy. Now, you could actually argue that 2, if not 3 of those players could be in the All Blacks, and they probably will be within the next couple years. In fact, they could be within the next couple weeks. Of course, injuries can happen, and we would then see those switches being made for the All Blacks. But for my loose forward trio, I chopped and changed for that number 6 jersey, but in the end, I gave it to Devin Flanders. Now, he hasn't been playing 6 throughout the NPC. He's actually been a number 8 for Hawke's Bay, but I do think they've got a great 8 option already. So Devin Flanders at 6. He does play there quite a bit for the Hurricanes in Super Rugby. Now, the other big option I feel was Sean Withy, and for me, the big decision was who starts out of those two and who makes their way off the bench. Both have strong versatility, so can play anywhere really in the loose forward trio, but in the end, because of recent form, I've gone with Devin Flanders as that number 6 option. Number 7, adding a bit of experience into this All Blacks 15 side, I've gone with Dalton Papali'i. Now, that one may split opinions a little bit because there have been some great 7s throughout the Bunnings NPC, and a couple of them are in this All Blacks 15 side. But Dalton Papali'i, he's still a solid player. He would still do pretty decently if he got that All Blacks call-up, and I do think with such a young side in terms of the inexperience, you do need some veteran guys in the team as well, and I actually think that that may be the reason behind some of Jamie Joseph's selections. Now, it may also be because Scott Robertson wanted certain players available for the All Blacks just in case, but I do think that the amount of caps that Papali'i has also does come into the equation, so I've given him that number 7 jersey. Number 8, Christian Leo Willie. He's very unlucky for this season. He played well up against France for the All Blacks in July. He then got taken out of the side due to the injury returns of Satiti and also Simon Parker, which I do think some weren't too happy about. Now, don't get me wrong, Satiti and Parker now doing great things for the All Blacks, but Leo Willie, he got thrown to the side. So I hope that he has 3 big games here for the All Blacks 15, can find his way back into that All Black squad because he does offer a lot in that number 8 jersey. He finds ways of scoring tries. He is solid defensively and can certainly offer you a lot throughout the 80 minutes of the game of rugby. But moving on to the backline, number 9, Kyle Preston. Number 10, Josh Jacob. Going with a young duo. Jacob's had some insane numbers throughout this season. Cam Miller, he's starting to take a couple of them off him in regards to points and whatnot. But that is only because Taranaki already knocked out of the Bunnings NPC. But Josh Jacob beating defenders, making running meters, and can really offer you a lot from that number 10 jersey. People still talking about him as a future 10 for the All Blacks, and perhaps 3 big games here up against international caliber opponents could certainly help Jacob take a step in the right direction. Kyle Preston, he's had some game time for New Zealand. Once again, not a massive amount. They do also have Xavier Rowe, who could be a great starting option or even an impact player off the bench, but I do like the idea of this Preston and Jacob combo, and to be fair, 5-6 years down the line, that could actually be the starting duo that we see for New Zealand. Moving on to the midfield. This won't be the duo in 5 or 6 years' time. David Havili, number 12. Braden Ennor, number 13. Now, straight away, I knew by selecting David Havili that it would get me in a little bit of trouble. The reason behind selecting him, pretty similar to Dalton Papali'i in terms of he's got that experience. And I have to say, when you look through at the midfielders, this is going to sound harsh, but I don't think it has the same caliber as what we saw last year for New Zealand in this All Blacks 15 squad. Last year, it was Quinn Tupaia, Riley Higgins, AJ Lamb, and I think it was Dallas McLeod. And of those players, only one man keeping his spot, but it does seem like Jamie Joseph has a lot more outside centres this year, whereas last year it did look a little bit more of that inside centre orientated midfield selection. So I do think that in this scenario, just to have a bit of chemistry in that midfield combo, it isn't a bad idea going with a couple Crusaders. Got to remember, if Kyle Preston's starting at 9, and I will mention I've got Fiaki out on the right wing, so that kind of binds this back line together. But Havili, he does need a couple big games here because he did struggle up against the British and Irish Lions. He's been in and out of form, but he does seem like the type of player that Razor would call into his squad if he needed another 12. Braden Ennor, he's actually had some very good form as of late, so hopefully does continue it for November. Moving on to the back three, number 11, Caleb Tangi-Tau, brilliant player, huge prospect for New Zealand. It was such a shame when he got injured for the Highlanders earlier on this season, but now that he's back, certainly making an impact, and just seems like the type of player that, once again, give him that 5-year period, and he could be wearing the black jersey each and every week. Out on the right wing, I've given it away. It is Che Fiaki as the right wing option. He is great under a high ball. He can also cover fullback if you need him to, which is fantastic for a bit of versatility. And then number 15, I've gone with Jacob Ratamaitavuki-Nepkins. Now, you could actually say the same about him, how he has played at times out on the wing throughout this year, but he has got a lot of skill in that 15 jersey. So overall, a very fast and dangerous back three for this New Zealand 15 side. Moving on to the bench, number 16, Bradley Slater. Good amount of experience under his belt, would be a fantastic option making his way off the bench. They have got Jack Taylor as a bit of a younger option, which could be looked at as well. But I do think in this case, Bradley Slater could be that slightly better option. Josh Fusitua as the number 17 and George Dyer at 18. So I mentioned about the potential option of starting those two, but instead I've got them making their way off the bench. Number 19, Isaiah Walker-Leawiri, with number 20 being Sean Withy. Those two both would bring a lot to the last 20 or so minutes of a contest when the opposition start to slow down. You've got Sean Withy, who will just keep on attacking those breakdowns, the dangerous physical ball running of Isaiah Walker-Leawiri as well. So just overall, a couple very good impact players to make their way off the bench. In the number 21 jersey, I would go with Folau Fakatava. Now, there is a chance that they decide to start him throughout November rather than having him come off the bench. He's right on the verge of making his way back into the All Blacks, and to be fair, when there were a whole heap of injuries of Noah Hotham, Cortez Ratama, and then earlier on Cam Roigard, I actually did think Fakatava's name would get thrown into the mix, but never quite did. So you wonder where he is on that pecking order. Obviously, he's in the top 6 with being selected in the All Blacks 15, but the big question mark is, will we ever see Fakatava get another opportunity for the All Blacks? Will he always be just outside of getting himself that chance. Number 22, Raves Reihana. He had a great end to the Super Rugby season. Him and Josh Jacob, I do think, are two massive future prospects for New Zealand alongside Cam Miller, Harry Godfrey. They've actually got some great options in the 10 jersey coming through, but Raves Reihana, he's got some great vision. Having that season under James O'Connor, I think, also helped a lot for his game, so I'd have him off the bench as the closer for this contest. And then number 23, this is where I've gone Atenai Nana Satoro, but you could easily go Daniel Rona in this jersey as well. But for me, those were the two choices. I would go with Nanai Satoro. Again, offers you the wing as well as fullback, but just a huge amount of pace and a little bit of extra spring off the bench for this All Blacks 15 side as well. But like I said, do let me know who you guys would go with in your All Blacks 15 sides. They are going to be playing up against the Barbarians the first weekend of November. We are covering that game on the channel as well. So if you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. As with the November internationals just around the corner, it is going to be a hectic time, but a very exciting one as well. So be sure to stay tuned. But thank you all very much for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all for the next one.